welcome. It's day 10 in our 24 days of tags. Thanks so much for joining, for tagging along and sharing your makes in the group. It's been a joy to see and be inspired by what you've been up to. So today we've got something really bright and cheerful. Now I know there are a lot of you who are in the Southern Hemisphere, so this is for you. Tomorrow, something bright as well. So for today, here we've got, I have just picked my favourite stencils, some of my favourite stamps, and made a collage of them all together. So I'm going to show you how we've got quite a textured background there. There's lots going on with different stencils in the background, and then I've layered different types of flower stamps that I've fussy cut with these holly leaves. So a real eclectic mix. What I've used for my flowers are some of these beautifully bold flowers from Tracy Scott and Paper Artsy. So I've used that one, and then I've used some of these little flowers from this set as well. For my, and one of my other stamps from Sweet Poppy Stencils, this lovely holly sprig. Then for my stencils, I've got a couple from Tim Holtz, that's that one, and the music notes. These are great because they've got a ring in them and you can just clip them all together and hold them in a ring. They come in two sizes, the big size and the small size, and you can just flip through them to find the one that you want. Another favourite of mine is this lovely star stencil, this lovely small dots, and then some snowflakes. But any, and I mean any, stencils will work for this. The only thing that you do need to think about, whilst I've gone big and bold on the flowers, you probably want to keep your stencils a bit smaller, you know, otherwise you're going to lose them in the, because it's only a small tag relatively. Okay, so we're going to create the background using Distress Oxides in a number of bright colours: mustard seed, spiced marmalade, cracked pistachio, blueprint sketch, and wilted violet. And then what I've done is I've used those same colours. Let me just show you those again so that you, in case you missed them. And then what I've done is I've cut the flowers and the leaves in all of the same colours. So it's a really, that's what makes it look integrated. Okay. Right, I had these in the order that I was going to use them. Right. So I'm going to apply the ink to my tag with my smoothies. Now I keep a piece of copy paper here, which is just a plain copy paper that I've torn off, and I'm going to put that on my tag to protect it from my fingers. Now, I heard somebody say, what do you do if you get marks on the back of your tag? Well, you could back it with a separate tag. So for instance, you could just pop it before you put the ribbon through, and then you've got a clean background. Some people write the colours and the techniques that they've used on the back. For me, I just keep them in a lovely Ferrero Rocher chocolate box and just look at them. Okay, so mustard seed smoothie, and we're just going to put some colour down on the tag. So mustard seed first, spiced marmalade second. And you can see I'm moving this in a circular motion. Start on the edge of the tag and just pull it across. Okay, so that's what our tag looks like. It doesn't matter that the blending isn't smooth and seamless through, because we've got loads of layers, some stenciling to put on, and put our flowers on top. So we'll be okay. If you don't want to use as many colours as me, no worries. Use your favourites. So now what you're going to do is colour a couple of extra pieces of card. So enough so that you can cut some flowers out. So I did some orange, some purple, blue, yellow, and then I cut my flowers. I stamped and cut my flowers out. I always stamp with Versafine Clear Nocturne because it gives me a nice crisp image, and then I fussy cut them. So that's what we've got. And then all our leaves. So these are the same. And that's the thing that makes it look together whilst busy together, because I've used the same colours throughout. Okay, so you're going to ink up a couple of different pieces of card, stamp and fussy cut your flowers and leaves. Okay. And then we're going to carry on decorating the back of this tag. So we're going to pick up all your lovely stencils that you've selected. And first one I'm going to do, so I'm just going to show you a number of different ways that I use stencils for texture. I just spritz that with some water, tap the excess water off, and then I'm going to bring my tag back in and just pop this water side down onto my tag. Dab it with my cloth. Oh, there we go. And so you've already got, look at that lovely texture. Very interesting. Picked up some of the colour from the background. So it's important now to make sure that that is completely dry before we put the next layer of stenciling on. Otherwise, it's going to smush and mess. So when I'm drying my tag like that, I will have dried it from the front, turned it over, backwards and forwards. So even though it curls one way, when you turn it over, it curls backwards. So that's relatively straight and flat, and I'm okay with starting with the next step. But if you're not, and you've landed up with something that's really curly, that you can either put it under some books. But this is my little trick. I bought a couple of these are called breadboards, from my little local shop. They're kind of 23 centimetres ish by about 15. I got two. They're relatively thin. And then I just put my card tag piece of work between them, and then I just got one of these clamps. Now my dad had this in his workshop, a spare one. It's a quick grip handy clamp, and then I just clip it like that, leave it, go and have a cup of tea, come back, and it's really quite nice and flat. So that's my little useful trick for, of course you can use a little travel iron and flatten it as well, but we're ready to go with the next step. So I'm going to start with my little music notes. And what you're going to do for each of your stencil colours is you're going to use the colour that was next to it and bring it down. So you can see where my blending wasn't seamless between, it really doesn't matter, because we've got this splodgy collection. What I wanted to say is blending. There you go. So I'm going to, so I've got yellow, and next to yellow was orange. So I'm going to take my orange, and I'm just going to bring that through the stencil onto my background. And again, this is a very textured tag, so we don't have to be too careful there. Now, I'm going to take my cracked pistachio background, and I'm going to put Blueprint Sketch on my cracked pistachio here with this stencil. And Look at that. Isn't that fun? And then what else am I going to do? I'm going to bring something on here. I'm going to bring a bit of this violet into my orange here. And I'm going to use these numbers that I had, keeping the 5 and the 2. Now, some of this is going to be covered up with our flowers, but that's okay. So you can see I'm not being very specific so that I don't want a line straight down. You can see these sort of numbers just blend into the next colour. So I'm going to leave it there, despite the fact that I got a few more tags, stencils out. I'm quite happy with what I've got there. And now to put our tag together with all our lovely flowers that we've cut, created. Okay, there's only one more thing. Here's our flower, and I just cut it so that it's in line with the size of the tag. And I also decorated it with some white spots. Now, there's 2 ways that I use my decorating for on top of my stamping, and that is with this Uniball Signo white pen. Now, sometimes it can be a bit erratic. The trick is to hold it upright, sort of scribble it, get it to flow, and then dot it like that. Now, other people like to use white acrylic paint, so that for these dots would be perfect. Got some fine paint brushes, that would be good. But then when we come to the leaves, you can see I've got texture on the leaves. That's going to be a bit more tricky if you haven't got a pen. So you're going to now play around with your placement. Now, I never stick anything down until I'm happy with the placement of the whole piece. Now, for my leaves, what I've done is, again, cut them out of that cracked pistachio piece of card, and I just scratched the card. That is on purpose, so it lands up looking like the veins are like veins are in leaves. So I'm on purpose scratching it because I think that gives it the texture that's helpful. Yep. And then I'm going to put some holly berries onto my leaves. So there's 2 ways you can do this, either with liquid pearls, I've got carnation red there, or enamel accents. Now, I blocked the top of mine, so I put it into a tiny little bottle, and they give you a slightly different look. The enamel accents sit on top of the card. You can see they're raised there, whereas the liquid pearls seem to still create a bit of a raised edge but flatten a bit more. These stay upright a little more. So I'm going to use enamel accents for this, and I always, whether it's either one of them, test it on a separate piece of card so that I know how much is in the bottle, how much pressure I need to apply to get my berries. Because you can get different sized dots dependent on how much of this lovely liquid and how much pressure you apply to your piece of work. They do take a few minutes to dry, so that is why I did a few earlier. Okay, so I'm going to fiddle around with the placement, and then I am going to stick it down. Some of it's flat, and some of it I've used 3D pads, so you can see I've raised some of them and some of them are flat. And so there we have our lovely bright tag for today. Day 10. Thanks so much for tagging along. Please remember to post your makes. I'd love to see them. Bye for now.